I'm Jason Poyner. I'm founder and CEO of Deptive, for those of you who don't know me. Dona is now the principal advocate for the Power Platform. And Dona, I'm really thankful that you've taken some time today to spend a bit of time with us. So what I'll do is I'll flick over so everybody can see you.
So thank you so much for this wonderful introduction, Jason and Jenny. I want to talk to all of you a little bit about this really important global epidemic that's upon us. And I see it in every country I go to. I saw it all over Africa. I see it all over Latin America. I see it all over Asia. And I see it in Australia and New Zealand, especially. And that global epidemic is tech upskilling. There is a huge shortage of people who are able to make apps, chatbots, websites in the world. It's about a 500 million people shortage. So when people talk about unemployment, they don't mean tech unemployment. Right now, there's sectors that are not tech. So think retail, think manufacturing, think healthcare, think government. And all of these sectors are reaching out to tech companies like us and saying, hey, can you make more software engineers to help make apps, websites, chatbots for us to do our own business? This doesn't even help us make the website that our customers see. It's help us make all of these internal apps we need, like a place to track our timesheets, a place to track our expenses, a place to track resource management, etc. And all of you who work in a company will know this is something very familiar, where if you want to build an internal tool that everyone in your company uses, step one is hire a dev, or go hire a vendor company to go hire a dev. And we're waiting for other people to come along and solve our problems. So in essence, we're all waiting for a Prince Charming to come along and save us from this technical deficit that we have gained in our company, and we don't know how to get rid of it, and we don't know how to get out of it. But we as an industry are not having very much luck making more developers. So I'll give you some numbers. 20 years ago, we used to have maybe 5 million developers in the world, people who identify as software developers. Right now, in 2020, you would think that would have exponentially just skyrocketed. We're only at about 11 million developers in the world. So we've doubled in size in 20 years, though every company now uses tech. We have not exponentially grown the number of devs. And we, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Amazon, all of these tech companies have gotten together to try to create devs. So as of right now, we've got this 500 million people tech job deficit. So we, Microsoft, realized this is a global epidemic. This shortage is as bad as having a shortage of electricity or internet, because it doesn't matter if you've got electricity to internet. If you don't have people who build things using that, we're not actually solving your business problems. And your business problems will continue to grow until we do something about it. And the greatest superpower you have in your company are your employees. And I don't mean hiring new employees. I mean the employees you've got, the ones you've got sitting at their desks doing work all day, all night, right now. So instead of us going out and trying to make coders out of all of them, how about we brought code to them? We need to build tools and products that help you solve your business problems without having to be a software developer. I've been a developer for 18 years. I know that being a software developer is not an easy feat that you can just roll into in a few months. Being able to deeply understand how to build architecture from the ground up, how to build APIs, how to build UI on top of it, this takes years of study and even more years of practice. So I'll talk to you about 4 key products that fall in Power Platform that might be useful for you. The first one is Power Apps, which is the low-code development. These are apps that run on your iPhone or your Android phone, and they are all internal apps. These are things like time tracker. You've got first-line workers off in the field. They track how many hours they work that day. That way it goes to a central data store. That data store can be whatever you want it to be. You can track it in Excel if you want. You can track it in SharePoint. We don't care. You don't need to change your data store, whatever it might be. These might be expense tools. So people like me are on the road a lot. Your salespeople might be as well. So what you do is go out there, you take pictures of the receipts from your airplanes, your hotels, your dinners, you submit them, they go into a central data store, and you can parse them as you will. You do OCRs, just see what exactly the amounts are, etc., and put them into categories, etc. So these are apps that every business has. I'm sure all of you are aware of businesses, all of you are aware of apps that your business needs, that you've all needed, that you've all repeatedly needed to hire devs to build these things. At Microsoft, we have a facilities need where I'm in a conference room right now, there's no whiteboard. I consider that to be a bug in the product. I need a whiteboard in my conference room. So what I would do is go to the facilities app that I have, and I would request, I would say I'm in Studio A, I'm in conference room this one, and I request a whiteboard here. Then it would put in a facilities request into a central data store. Now, the magic is these apps are not built by devs. They're not built by people like me. They're not built by a third-party company we hire. This app, the facilities app, was built by the facilities team. These are a bunch of people who go around repairing things and hanging up whiteboards and fixing locks. They're not software engineers, but they built this app themselves based on Microsoft Power Platform. 0 people on this team have a computer science degree. 0 people have ever built an app in their entire life, but they built this app with 5 clicks and an Excel spreadsheet to teach themselves how to use it, how to use the Power Apps platform, and how to build this app that they then deploy to all of us employees that we can all use. So that's one, Power Apps. Second thing is there's an offshoot of it called Power Apps portals. These are websites that you can derive from these apps doing exactly the same thing. So say I want my facilities app to be a facilities website, facilities.microsoft.com. I can build a Power Apps portal. It's drag and drop. It's, if you've ever used GoDaddy Builder or Wix website builder, it's like that. You drag in components, you drag out components, you change colors, you add your logo, you do all of this, no code. So that's 1A and 1B. 2 is this thing that you might have heard of called Flow. This is an automation tool that we have in-house. You can trigger flows for things. I have a fashion line that I run on the side. So I have a flow triggered where if someone places a customer order, it triggers a text notification to a tailor in some part of the world. And it completely depends on what someone has ordered and where the fabric would come from. So if someone ordered something in an African fabric like this, it would trigger a flow, a text message to my tailor in Africa. If they order from a Jakarta fabric, it would trigger a flow to a tailor in Jakarta. So I've got this set up that way I don't need to constantly monitor customer orders, but all of this work just kind of happens without me doing this work. So Flow is a part of this suite of products called Power Automate. We're also doing RPA, which is robotic process automation, which is UI automation. A lot of your companies have test cases that you need to write and test cases you need to run. You have to repeatedly click buttons. We've built RPA to kind of do away with that. If these are cases that feel familiar to you and useful and you'd like to use these products, please get in touch with me because we're looking for hero stories across all these, where we as Microsoft want to build with you. So we want to come in, help you solve your business case, and then figure out what we need to do to our products to make them better for companies like you. So first one, Power Apps, low-code apps and websites. Second one is Flow, Power Automate. The third one is my favorite and the newest. It just came out in November. It's called Power Virtual Agents. And Power Virtual Agents is a low-code chatbot or a low-code virtual agent. So chatbot, this would be external facing. So you do something like take your FAQ. Every company's got an FAQ. What did we do? What are the hours? Who works here, etc. You can use your existing FAQ that's on your website. You can generate a chatbot just from the existing questions. So now you can go to this chatbot, lives on your own website, and you say, what does your company do? Get the answer. And your chatbot can be as funny or as serious as you want it to be. The chatbot from my fashion company is pretty sassy because she has to sound just like me. So she's got lots of attitude, lots of ideas, and is very, very flattering to the customer. So you can build a chatbot off of an FAQ, you can build a chatbot from scratch, but you can do this without having to go out and learn cognitive services, because I don't know about you, but I don't have time to learn a bot framework, go out and hire some sort of cognitive expert. I want a chatbot to just learn from my customers' questions and then make an answer based on that. So this chatbot functionality to me is by far one of the most cool and interesting things we've built. And the fourth part that I've mentioned before is Power BI, which are the customer-facing dashboards. Recently, I've been understanding the power of Power BI I'm building a social media sentiment dashboard for my fashion line. So when someone uses my hashtag prima donna style or talks about prima donna with the @prima donna handle on social, I want the dashboard to light up and say, was it the hashtag? Was it the actual handle? Which social media channel was it on? How many mentions? What were the impressions like? What did the sentiment feel like? This way, with one view, I can see what people are talking about my fashion line on social media. This is across Instagram, across Twitter, across LinkedIn, across Facebook. I don't need to monitor. Between Flow and Power BI, this monitor is done for me. And I have all of my views in one place. I'm sure any of you who have any sort of social media profile would benefit from something like this. But out of all 4 of these, what's so fascinating to me is I'm a software developer. I have built every Windows component you've ever used. So if you've ever saved a file or opened a file, my code lives in there. If you've ever inserted a USB thumb drive, you get the autoplay thing. That was my code, scratch, end to end. I've written Windows code for 14 years. And this is the first time that I'm realizing how easy and how simple it is to build tools that anyone in the world can use. So I'm loving this job of being an advocate for Power Platform because I've never been able to impact more people. Already we're 2.5 million Power Platform developers. That's insane given that there's only 11 million software developers in the world. I think we're going to overtake that number in the next few years. So for any of you who are interested in joining this Less Code, More Power global movement, please let me know, because we really, really need people from different parts of the world than just US and Western Europe. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Dona.
Of course.
Hey, I guess there's a few questions that I've got here. So one thing that strikes me is you know, would the Power Platform though, could it become almost the 2000s version of the Microsoft Access database sprawl that we saw in the 90s or 2000s due to all those citizen devs, right? And look, they had the same idea, right? They had a tool which they wanted to use to solve some business problems because IT wasn't moving fast enough or development was going to cost too much. So to me, it's a similar sort of concept, but we've kind of seen how things got out of control there. What are Microsoft doing to make sure that this doesn't become an access of this generation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We get that a lot. So the way we talk about Power Platform is fundamentally different. This is not a matter of go rogue and solve problems that your IT team won't. It's a matter of a collaborative journey between IT and citizen devs, say in a company. So the workflow that we've seen work incredibly well is for someone in IT, and this just happened. There's a company, it's a large construction company in Australia and New Zealand called Dona, who I'm sure many of you know.
Absolutely.
The IT department in New Zealand reached out and said, hey, we want to build this Power App that we want to roll out to all of our employees across the company in New Zealand. We want to roll out to first 2,000 people, then 4,000 people, but we want to roll out to first line workers, meaning people who work in construction off in a field somewhere. And their internet might be kind of bad. They may never have used a computer, but they all have mobile phones. So we want to roll out this time tracking app so they can log their hours. Right now they're logging in a timesheet, sheets of paper, giving them to their supervisor, and their supervisor's job is to type them into a spreadsheet and then send it to central. That's a pain. It makes no sense. It's a lot of waste and a lot of losing stuff. So plus it's hard to modify. You say like, oh, I want to put in this many hours and you put in this many, etc. So it's a huge pain right now. And they said, can you help us do this? We said, sure. So we said the best thing to do is to build the app yourselves and have a set number of people try out the app and contribute fields and things that make sense for them. So IT is heading up the project and these citizen devs are contributing to the project. And these citizen devs will then use it and then give feedback. So this is not a citizen devs versus IT, let's put apps everywhere sort of thing. This is very much a collaborative effort. So IT doesn't have to now go out and hire a bunch of software developers to do this work. They were able to build the app in-house themselves, in like a week. That was The easy part was building the app. Now the harder part is for them to actually go out, find citizen devs and give them feedback on what's working, what's not. How does this work offline in the field anyway? Can people like log into it? I learned something really interesting, which is construction workers have giant fingers, which makes sense. So the buttons that we initially made on the app, they don't work.
They're too small.
They're too small, way too small. We would never know that information, right? We would never know that. So these construction workers, like, I can't hit the number one. So IT had to make the buttons bigger so these construction workers could actually type in their information. So,
I guess that's a great example, though, of showing that, you know, that quick turnaround, quickly try something out.
And they did it right away. They can do it in real time, right? This is not a, oh, come back in 3 months. It's a, oh, we can make the buttons bigger by doing this with the buttons. But there's a bunch of management tools in place. IT also has a set of tools called application lifecycle management. So they can see any app that's being built and they control permissions. Who can build apps, who can see apps. They can say, no one in the company can build apps except this body of people. Or no one in the company can see this app except these body of people. So the IT department at Downer is saying the only people who can see this app are these group of, I think they've got 100 test subjects right now. Only these 100 people can see this app and give feedback on it. No one else can see it. Does not deploy on anyone else's device. So IT maintains all of the control over all of this, especially for big companies. It's really, really important to have that. That close partnership between citizen devs and IT. But we haven't seen the sprawl of apps because generally IT is really good at managing like, oh, here are apps that are being built that are experimental. They have no users, they have no takers, they've been unused for 150 days, so I'm going to delete it. So it's like any other tool that you use in your company.
Yeah, that helps me understand that a lot better. And of course, if IT's got those controls and permissions, you were talking about permissions before around, you know, only those 100 users being able to use it. But I assume as well that there's permissions around only these power users are the ones who are able to actually edit the app and create the apps as well.
We actually recommend this idea of a center of excellence. And I recommended this to Downer as well, which is build a center of excellence. That is a central body of people from across the board who have admin privileges and they make decisions together. So you decide, okay, Power Apps is a thing that these 100 people can use. Power Virtual Agent is a thing these 100 people can use. We don't deploy any of these to the boss. You know, just make your own decisions. Here's the security and compliance responsibilities we have. We want them localized into these languages. So have a central body of people and don't just have it be from one division. Like don't just have it only be from finance or only from IT. It's important to bring along others. We think it's very helpful to bring along the HR because they can talk a lot about how the thing you're really doing is tech upskilling your company. So you're teaching people in your company that they too can contribute to app building or to chatbot building or website building while on the job. So you're doing this on the job training, which is something every company is trying to do. And it really helps to have a center of excellence that has someone from IT, someone from finance, because finance has the craziest apps I've never understood in my life. What is going on in finance apps? Legal, so you stay out of jail. HR, so they can help do the tech upskilling and bringing people along. And then people from any sort of like weird operations on the field sort of role, because they usually have these app needs like, hey, I'm not on site, or I'm in a place with no internet, or I'm in a factory, or you know, that kind of thing. And they might be someone who doesn't work at a computer all day. They might be someone who's, you know, walking around a factory floor or a construction site. So it's really important to have like these 5 kinds of people as part of your center of excellence.
Awesome. Hey, that's a good segue to another question I had, which was you're talking about you know, HR being involved to help upskill, and that was one of my key questions: is how do you actually go about getting the Power Platform into the right hands, into the right people in the business, and how do you go about training them and getting them to adopt this? Because you know, a lot of these people may have never even considered creating their own application before. So how do you actually get to these people and get them on board?
So I'll tell you the story of this bank in Africa called Standard Bank. Standard Bank is the biggest bank in Africa all up. Their headquarters are in South Africa. So a few years ago, I would say 2 years ago, IT hosted a hackathon. And they said, come with your business problems, build solutions to solve your business problems. So there was a young woman named Vanessa and two of her colleagues who were business analysts. They're not coders. They're very much business people who look at charts and graphs and say, like, this is costing a lot of money, this is not costing a lot of money, etc. They were noticing that their ATM maintenance was not going that well. So they have ATMs all over the continent, right? So they have maybe 10,000 ATMs. And they're noticing that when an ATM is out of service, or an ATM needs cleaning, or an ATM is just straight up broken, that they don't hear about that unless some bystander calls the number and someone in main headquarters writes it down and maybe it gets to somebody. So they used to, I'm not kidding, not to be mean to them, but they used to write this down on a clipboard on the wall. So they would write down the ATM location, the issue, and then write it down on a clipboard on the wall. Then these workers would call in and say, hey, we're done with the task, what do we do now? And they would assign them the next task. Now, you can imagine this is great for like 1994, but come on, right? This is ridiculous. Everyone's got a phone. Why are you having to call some desk phone and hope to catch someone to get the next thing? And that's only if someone remembered to cross it out. You know, this is not a very scientific process. Plus, there's no intelligence applied to what's more important. A broken ATM, way more important than a dirty ATM. So there's no, intelligence applied. You're also saying the worker is in Nigeria, so we should assign them things in Nigeria versus, can you get to Nigeria? No. Can you get to Kenya? No. Can you get, it's just not a good process. So Vanessa realized that we're losing millions of dollars by not having our workers be at the right place at the right time. So how can we solve this problem? So they realized they have Office 365s and they have the good email. And then in the corner, she saw in Excel, there's a thing that says, make a Power App. She said, what's that? But this is something IT has ordered for everyone in their company, Office 365. So in the hackathon, they said, oh, this Power App thing seems interesting. It takes this Excel spreadsheet we have where we've tracked all the ATM issues and it can make a Power App out of it. That's kind of cool. So how do we use this now? So they spent the 2 days of the hackathon sketching out this Power App they want to build, where anyone who sees anyone in the company, say they see ATM out of service, they log the issue. They say ATM location, blah, 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 country here, and here's what's wrong with the ATM. It's dirty, it's broken, etc. It goes to a central data store. And for this, they just used a SharePoint list as their central data store. And then to workers, they have a different app that says work to be done. It'll say, you're in Nigeria, let's match, and say, this issue is in Nigeria, this worker is in Nigeria, just put it in their queue. So then the worker in Nigeria will go and say, oh, I've got a project on my list, on my app. They'll get a notification that says new project added. Once they finish, they just check the box that say they're done, and then it falls off the SharePoint list altogether, so it doesn't get assigned to someone else. So they made this in 2 days. 3 business analysts, no coding. And they presented this at the end of the hackathon, and everyone looks around and says, oh my God, you're geniuses. How did you do this? What did you use? They're like this thing called Power Apps from Excel. So these 3 are heroes in the company now. And the main thing that IT did was show them the benefit. That was it. You just showed them the benefit. So someone in IT, a senior VP guy, said, you know what? We need a Power Apps team. So he promptly hired Vanessa and these 2 people to join this Power Apps team. They started off as 3 employees. Now they're 30 employees. They've deployed over 1,000 Power Apps in their company. And they actually invented this concept of Center of Excellence and said, we need to have this combined relationship where everyone truly understands the value of having citizen devs make apps to solve their own problems. So the best way to do it is to bring people along from day one and say, dear finance, HR, ATM cleaning people, et cetera, let's talk about the business problems you have over and over and over again. And let's figure out who in your org should be working with us to solve them.
You know, when it comes down to it, you know, it's as much a communication thing as anything else by the sounds, isn't it? As you said, just talk about the business problems.
It's just the business problem, state the business problem. Everyone knows. If you ask anyone in an organization, what are the top 5 issues you've got? They know what they are. it's not confusing, right? Communication between us and customers. It always comes down to technology is the simple part. We are complicated. We are the most complicated machine on the planet. We're, irrational. And this is why I found Power Apps to be so helpful, is because it gets rid of this whole idea that IT owns tech, we own work. We all own tech. We all own tech. Everybody in the world knows how to use, social media. Everyone knows how to look stuff up using Google. Most people have Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn accounts. You know how to use tech. Let's go use it to solve your own business problems.
Great. Hey, I've just had one question come in. Talking about the opportunity of infusing other technologies. And look, some of this is happening already, AI, machine learning. Obviously, the chatbots are already coming into Power Apps. Mm-hmm. Though the follow-on question from this is going, actually, where do you see the Power Platform going over the next year or so? It's probably pretty hard to look. I'm not sure how much you can share, but it would be great to look into that crystal ball a little bit.
Yeah. So my prediction, as the prediction of many people, Power Platform is the front end of Azure. So whenever anyone talks about an Azure component, but they don't know how to use it because they're like, that sounds great. What do? You have to go get like an Azure degree? No. So Azure is quite complex for people who are non-technical. I tell everyone this, like, if you're not technical, you going and getting an Azure license, like, what are you trying to do exactly? They're usually trying to do something simple, like I want to build a website, I want to track my customer data, etc. Power Platform really is built on top of Azure. Nothing here is new. None of it's new. So I'll give you an example. Azure has an app platform. Power Apps is just the front end to that. Every call we make, everything we generate is based off of Azure's cognitive services. It's just a way to build apps from your data source. So right now, if you have Azure, you go into Azure SQL and look at your data sources. There's a thing that says generate app. If you click that, a Power App shows up. You're like, when did that happen? It's always been there. No one knew about it. So Flow is built on Azure Logic Apps. How many of you know how to use Azure Logic Apps? Not everyone in the world. That's how many. Flow is a very simple drag and drop version to use Azure Logic Apps. The entire AI builder motion in Power Platform, which does stuff for you. So I call it makes you look good to your boss. That's where your Power App looks kind of good without you doing any work. That's where your Power Virtual Agent automatically generates a chatbot from your FAQ. You look good. You look real smart without doing any work. You look good to your boss.
I like it.
You like it, right? See, it's pretty useful. It's all based on Azure Cognitive Services, which has a team of 500 people working on it, and those are insanely smart PhDs in machine learning. I am not an insanely smart PhD in machine learning, but I look like one because all of my apps have intelligence baked into them using Azure Cognitive Services that I did not do. Power Platform does that for me. So if I had to predict how we're going to be talking about this and using it and keeping on building, it is going to be the front end to Azure. It's Azure for non-technical people.
So, extrapolating that out, I guess, any of the new features that we see coming into Azure, potentially we're going to see development in the Power Platform to be, as you said, to be that front end for that.
That's right.
Fantastic. All right. Hey, so one of the key things that I guess I wanted our audience to understand is, absolutely what's in it for them. And, some of the people on this call will be very hands-on, very technical people. There'll be some more in IT management, perhaps CIO, and there'll be some people from the business as well. So I thought, thinking about those three types of people, what would you say to those three types of people about really what is in it for them? What can they get out of this?
Yeah, so let's start with the CIO types. Dear CIOs, hiring developers is really expensive, like extremely expensive. You have a very thankless job anyway because everyone's always yelling at you. When things go well, no one notices. When things go bad, everyone notices and has lots of opinions on how you wasted money and time, etc. We're here to help you. We want to make you look good to your boss and to your teams. We want to figure out how you can reduce your costs overall, while building exactly the apps and services you need to run your business. There's nothing more annoying than you hiring a bunch of external devs or people to build things for you, and they don't actually solve the problems or do the job, and everyone is complaining. So why not use the most important asset you've got, which is your teams, your companies, your people, to solve their own problems? So one, CIOs. Second, people in IT. People in IT, you're my people. I just love you so much. And I know this is stressful and annoying because it's yet another thing that you need to manage and take care of. But you are getting a whole look at what the future of IT looks like. The future of IT is not wiping and reloading Windows machines. It's just not the case anymore. Like, we wish that was the case, it's not the case. Your job is not to, by the way, my very first job was to take CDs of Windows 98, not kidding, CDs, and go to 150 people in my dad's company and install them. They asked me to do it. They're like, can your daughter do this? She's studying computer science, right? And I'm like, don't say computer science like it's a made up thing. It's a real thing. And my dad says, sure, she can do this. She can come in and install Windows. So I got a bunch of CDs and I went to every person's office and I put it in, hit next, next, and waited like the 1 hour. And then they all asked me questions. What is this Windows other thing and how do I use it, or do I care about it? And I have to go and explain to them the same spiel. I said, no, you can do things better and faster. This one, you're going to also get this thing called Office, and Office is going to have your own email. And they're like, why do I need email? I said, so instead of someone writing memos, this is 1998, right? So I once explained to 150 people in one summer why they need Windows and Office. So I feel you, IT people, I feel you. No one gets it. They think this is stupid. They don't need it. They hate change. But the best part is, it makes you better. It makes you better. You're no longer the person who's like, I want to update your Windows, I want to update your Office. It's, you want to give them an app that does away with this crazy paper process they've got that is annoying and irritating. So you get out of the business of managing Windows and Office deployments and into the business of being an app developer and an app manager. That sounds cool. You get to be like a cloud architect. That sounds cool. You get to be a cloud developer. That sounds really cool. So if you put on your resume, cloud developer, cloud architect, that is going to get you way more creds than being an old school IT pro. So third one, business people. Business people, you know that you don't really want to tinker with tech. You don't want nothing to do with this. You just want to solve your own problems. Now, how many times has someone come along and said, here's a solution to your problems, and you say, that does nothing but cause me extra work, and in fact does not solve the problem at all. I'm just going to go back to writing stuff on my whiteboard or on this here sheet of paper. It happens all the time. So instead of letting someone else create your solution for you, why not co-create? Why not say, hey, these buttons are too big for my hands? Or who the heck uses Excel like that? You're crazy? No. Or if you're someone who works, off in the field and you say, I don't really want to go find a phone and make a phone call to Central to find out where I'm supposed to be next. Have a hand in co-creating tools that make your job easier. So there's a business proposition for each of you, and each of you is completely different. But we have worked very closely with all these three types of people to build solutions that work for all.
Cool. No, that's great. Thanks, Donna. I don't think I've got too much in the way of questions. So I just want to hand it back over to you if there's anything else you want to cover off before we wrap up. Just a final call out to everybody listening in. If there are any more questions, now's a good time. Yeah, so all of you who have Office 365, which I assume is most people because you're in Auckland. Auckland's actually quite technologically advanced. I highly, highly recommend you try out Power Apps. I will send to Jason my tutorial, and I would love for him to send this out to all of you. It is a very basic tutorial. All you do is, if you've got no 365 license, you can just use it, and you get a spreadsheet that has types of carpet. You say like shaggy carpet, not shaggy carpet. Then it links to pictures of it, and you hit generate, and you get a Power App, and you can then deploy it to your phone, your Android device, or you can view it in a Windows browser. I would just like for you to try it, because then you'll realize that, oh, I can actually do this in-house. And once you do that, I would love for you to try out our Pro virtual agent and try building your own chatbot, because it is possible.
and it is simple. And we truly, truly believe that this is the way that you're going to save your business millions of dollars. You're going to make your workers happy by bringing them along and building solutions and tools that help them be successful. And it helps tech upskill people in your company. What a gift you can give your employees, right? It is really wonderful to work for one of those companies where employees say, no, our company actually took the time to invest in us and make us better. So because it's me, because you invited me to speak, there's going to be this homework assignment, and I'd love for you to do it and to send me feedback on what worked and what didn't work. I'm highly reachable. I'm an advocate. This is my job. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, please do. And if you're running into problems doing any of these things, let me know, because I will connect you directly to the product team. And you get to work with them one-on-one to figure out what exactly your company needs and how we can help enable that. So thank you so much for being here with me today and letting me join you and yap your ear off about the Power Platform and tech upskilling.
Fantastic, thank you again. So I guess just to wrap up, I think that was a really awesome session. Thank you so much for your time, Donna. And a couple of key things I picked up along the way. Power Apps is not about going rogue. Nope. I like that, and that concept that IT is still heading the projects. They've still got some control around this, but they're bringing in the citizen devs who are contributing, the ones who are close to the business and really understand the business problems. And at the end of the day, it's all about talking to the business, understanding their problems.
That's right. It's co-creating. It's this concept at Microsoft we have called listen, learn, co-create, where listen to your customers, learn their issues, co-create with them, because they know better. Your customers know better than anyone what they need. So instead of you creating solutions for them, you co-create with them. It works way better because they're happy from day one, because they're bought in from day one.
Awesome. One of the other key things I picked up as well is just that idea of Power Platform being the front end of Azure as well. And I think that maybe help some of the more technical people on the call here understand perhaps what is possible now and what might be possible in the future as well. Finally, thanks to everybody for joining us today. And a final thanks to you, Donna, for spending an hour of your time with us.
Thank you. I'll see you all soon.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.